Okay, Shalom. Right, there's some utterly phenomenal gematria to be revealed through this particular verse to be found in Genesis 48, which is part of this week's Torah portion. We're actually on the 10th of Tibet. This is a fast day today. So anyway, hopefully I can get this this teaching out, and we'll be looking at some wonderful concepts. Not least, there's a powerful cipher that's used within gematria, powerful code if you like, and includes adding a kollel, what's called a kollel, a letter alef, to any of the gematria, and from adding that you can then draw parallels to other gematria that are of equal value. Okay, so it's the use of adding a kollel to represent alufo shel olam, master of the universe. And we add an alef, a 1, and that, like I say, it represents alufo, which means master. Alef, alufo. I've talked about that a lot. Okay, and also the concept of yotewawe, hiding in the alef. It's a phenomenon that I've talked about many times. Right, let's go and have a look at this. Hopefully bring myself up now. Okay, so we've got this verse, it's taken from Genesis 48:5, and it's, "And now, as for your 2 sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt, until I came to you, to the land of Egypt, they are mine. Ephraim and Menashe shall be mine, like Reuben and Simeon." Okay, so because you've got Ephraim and Manasseh on the one hand, and then they are like Reuben and Simeon, and the gematrias are very, very close, there's only one difference between, that's where we get the concept of the kollel. Okay, Ephraim and Manasseh come to 732, very significant messianic number, we will be having a look at that. Reuben and Shimon come to 731, even more significant messianic number. So there's one difference between. So in order for Ephraim and Manasseh to be like Reuben and Shimon, we need to add 1. We need to add an alef, what's called a kollel. And that's where we get the concept of the kollels from. Okay, so it's taken from this verse. So I hope you can appreciate when you've got such a significant cipher determined from this particular verse, then in that same verse there's going to be a lot of other hidden codes for us to appreciate. So first of all, let's start off with this phrase: Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine like Reuben and Shimon. Okay, so that's Genesis 48:5, just like I've said. It's got a regular of 1,554. It's got an ordinal of 303. That's a significant number. Together they come to 1,857. Okay. It's got a mispar gadol of 3,414. An ordinal mispar gadol of 336. They together come to 3,750. I haven't got the time to go through all these. We're going to be looking at these numbers that are highlighted, and then we're going to be having a look at just the concept, the numbers for Ephraim and Manasseh and Reuben and Shimon that determine the whole practice and cipher of adding a kollel to a particular gematria in order to show similarities with other concepts or other gematria. Okay, 639, we get that from adding the regular ordinal and the mispar gadol ordinal together, 613. Straight away we've got this then, very important, Etz Chaim. It comes to a regular of 228, which is 4 times 57, 4 times Hamoshiach, the ordinal of Hamoshiach. 75 ordinal, together they come to 303. So straight away we've got tree of life is somehow connected to this statement: Ephraim and Manasseh shall be like Reuben and Shimon. And you know, all that concept that I talked about, the cipher, the adding the kollel. Okay. And then for everything holy, you've always got something very powerfully unholy. So the fact that this is opposite something so significantly unholy is going to tell us that hidden in this concept of Ephraim and Manasseh shall be like Reuben and Shimon, and the whole kollel and all that's going to be revealed through this verse, then there is an equal opposite unholy force that we've usually got to contend with in order to reveal that truth that's hidden in all the doubt and confusion. And here we have it. We've got Antimna was a concubine of Eliphaz, son of Esau, and she bore to Eliphaz Amalek. So this is the whole concept of Amalek then, isn't it? The regular and ordinal of that come to 3,714, which is 2 times 1,857. So we see that that is opposite. 1,857 is absolutely opposite this, the fact that Ephraim and Manasseh shall be like Reuben and Shimon. So these are the tribes of Israel. Okay. Opposite that is this, Amalek. And the whole concept, how Amalek came to be through Timnah, the concubine to Eliphaz, son of Esau, or Esav, as is, or Esau. He's got different names depending on how you pronounce the vav. Okay, so to Esau, equal, opposite, and unholy. We've got to contend with these forces of doubt in order to reveal the truth. In this world at this time during exile, the holy things are not revealed, they're all concealed. The name of Yod-Heh-Wah is hidden. Okay? We are trying to perceive an invisible God through that's visible. Okay? And it would seem that in this world of duality, there's an for everything holy, there's an equal opposite unholy, and that's to maintain free choice. Okay, and it also gives us a work in order to reveal the truth regarding the invisible God, the God that hides in amongst that duality of good and evil, dark and light. Okay, and we've got to transform the darkness and the concealment and the evil into good and into revelation. Okay. So all kinds of interesting concepts, right? So the 639 is the fig tree filled. The fig tree is connected to the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. In the Talmud, there are 3 main fruits that the sages say the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is. The first being the fig tree, second being wine, the vine, grape, and the third being wheat. That's according to the Talmud. Then there are other midrashic interpretations that say that the tree of knowledge is the etrog, and others that say that the tree of knowledge is the nut. Okay, so there's all kinds of, it's all symbolic stuff. And then there's even tradition within Christianity that it's a magic mushroom. Okay, so but it's all symbolic. The fig tree, however, represents the concept of Moshiach that is Moshiach Ben Yosef. There's very significant reasons why, not least this, because this is a filling out of Yeshua, who is the aspect of Moshiach that incarnated at the level of Moshiach Ben Yosef, the Yechida, the tip of the Yod, the aspect of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah that is the tip of the Yod, the highest possible incarnation of the soul of Moshiach, from the upper perfect light of Adam that didn't fall when Adam fell. I've talked about that a lot. So it's got a regular 522 and order level 117 add them together, 639. So we can see powerfully connected to Ephraim and Manasseh and the fig tree. This is the remedy for eating off this particular fig tree. This is going to bring us to a revelation of the perfection and the unity rather than the imperfection and the duality. Okay, the truth regarding Yeshua will, not the lies. In the meantime, however, we've got this concept which comes up also in this Torah portion, the angel who redeemed me. This is Yaakov when he's going to bless Ephraim and Manasseh. Talks about the angel who redeemed me. The verse will come up, so we will go through that. But there's some really wonderful. I'm actually in the middle of doing an analysis because there's some wonderful gematria even hidden in here. So it's got a square ordinal of 639. The angel who redeemed me, Hamalach Agoel, powerful angel that redeemed Yaakov. Okay. And again, we've got this concept of the tree of knowledge. So we know this fig tree has got the same gematria as the tree of knowledge, Eitz Hada'ath tree. So we can see that there's a definite connection between the concept of the fig tree representing the tree of knowledge. And don't forget, the fig tree was the leaf that Adam and Eve sowed upon themselves. It was part of their hiding because it was ashamed. Okay, so it's something to do with shame and embarrassment as well. That's us in our fallen state, isn't it? This has got another thing to point out. 639 is 9 times 71, and 71 is Yonah, the sign of Moshiach, the only sign that Yeshua gave to a wicked and adulterous generation, the sign of Yonah. And this is a phenomena that comes up in every single lesson. The phenomena of Yonah in one way or another comes up. The numbers of Yonah are continuously there. Yonah represents Yonah Hanavi, Yonah the prophet, Jonah the prophet. He also represents the whole concept of even going to like a big metropolis like Nineveh and redeeming the Pharaoh. That concept will come up later, but he ultimately redeems the Pharaoh of the Exodus that fled to Nineveh according to Midrash. Okay, so where do we get this number, this then? I've just highlighted this because this is Hebrew youth filled Na'ar Ivri. Okay, this is talking about Yosef, who was called the Hebrew youth. Okay, so there's got some wonderful gematria in there, but it also comes to 2088. We can see this is connected to the concept of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He's a rectification for it. Yosef going into Egypt and suffering everything that he suffered, and also Yaakov suffering as a consequence of Yosef going into Egypt and him being diminished in his spirit. And this is a rectification. Yeshua suffering in this Edomite exile is a rectification for this problem, the tree of knowledge, that leads us to a perception of duality rather than a perception of unity, the tree of life. But this phrase here, Ephraim and Menashe shall be mine like Reuben and Shimon, hidden in this is a code that gives us access to the tree of life. Okay, so we've got to rectify and remedy the problems that are caused from eating of the tree of knowledge and get back and access this consciousness that's called tree of life consciousness, which is ultimately Messianic levels. Like I've said 228 is 4 times HaMoshiach, 4 times the Moshiach. Where do we get this number from? It's from the regular and the mispagdol added together come to 2088, exactly the same as the regular and the ordinal of a Hebrew youth filled Na'ar Ivri. And then this is the verse that it's taken from. So just slightly later on in Genesis 48, but still the same Torah portion. We've got, may the angel who redeemed me from all harm bless the youths. So again, we've got that Hana'arim. This is this concept of the youth, which is very much related to the concept of Metatron, which is very much related to the concept of Yosef and also Joshua. It's and Yesod. It's really relating to and Yeshua, as was also called Na'ar, the lad, when he was in the temple. But what I'm wanting to point out is it's a state of spiritual immaturity. We've got to grow up and mature to full status, full Messianic status, full Gadlut, what's called expanded consciousness. Okay, a state of greatness, okay, as opposed to constriction, which is Egypt. Okay, Mitzrayim means constriction. It's us in our immature states of consciousness where we're not truly able to perceive the tree of life. We're not able to perceive the light hidden in darkness, or the good hidden in evil, okay? Or the truth hidden in a lie. We tend to, because we're not mature enough, and by mature I mean we've shed off layers of ego. That's what maturity ultimately looks like. It's breaking out of the shell, like a baby bird that gets to a stage of maturity where it can break out of the shell, and then, or break out of the womb, like Moshiach has got to be birthed, but before his birth there's birth pangs. It's that breaking out of the evil shells that contain us. They protect us until the time is ready for us to, we're mature enough to break free of those constrictions. We break out of the womb, we break out of the shell. The fruit comes out of the peel. It's all the same concept. Once it reaches a state of maturity, if it doesn't come out and we don't go to the next level of maturity, you'll putrefy, or the fruit will rot, turn into alcohol or whatever. You know, once you reach that level of ripening, and at the right time, you're ready then to get to the next stage. So Na'ar is an important part of the journey, but it's not full maturity. We've got to go beyond that stage of Na'ar. We've got to go beyond the stage of Metatron. We've got to go beyond to get the stage of the angel that guides us during exile. We've got to stand on our own 2 feet and be all that angel is, whilst we are still in our immature states of consciousness, and we're still in restricted levels of consciousness, and we are being prepared to be matured, by the way. This is the whole process that we are now in. Okay, so let's have a look at some more gematria. Wonderful stuff. So we've got this Ephraim and Menashe. Okay, they're the two names together, and obviously with the and in between the ve. It comes to 732. 120 ordinally, which is Eliah Wanavi. Together they come to 852. It's got a misbar gadol of 1292, 131 ordinally. That's quite an important number, by the way. 3 times that, for example, is Shiloh, and it's also Ephraim, 393. That 393 is a very significant Messianic number, but 3 times 131 comes to 393, and that is the regular and ordinal of Shiloh, which is an appellation of the coming of Moshiach. It's got a square ordinal of 1826, and it's also the Mispar Gadol regular and ordinal add to 1424. We'll be looking at both these numbers. Let's have a look at what's going to come up. All right, first of all, this is quite exciting. So this is the numbers for Reuben and Shimon. We're going to be looking at these 2 numbers, because this is where we determine the whole concept of the Kollel from, where we can add an alef, add a number 1 onto any gematria to make it like another gematria, just as what we've got here. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine like Reuben and Shimon. In order for them to be like one another, you've got to add 1, because Ephraim and Manasseh regular come to 732. The regular for Reuben and Shimon comes to 731. So there's 1 difference. For in order to be like one another, you've got to add 1. You've got to add an alef. Okay, so that's the concept of Kollel, and they're the numbers from which we get that. So because these are so important, we're going to be having a look at what those numbers are together over here, 1463, and also looking at these 2 numbers separately, because they're very, very significant. Okay, and we're also going to be looking at the square ordinal of Reuben and the square ordinal of Ephraim and Manasseh. There's so many wonderful things in it all. It's absolutely glorious stuff. Let's have a look, see what numbers come up. So straight away, we'll be having a look at this one then. The square ordinal, 1771. Ahiyeh asher ahiyeh. Ahiyeh asher ahiyeh. I am that I am. Okay, so this is a powerful name at the level of Keter, the crown. Powerful, powerful name. Obviously, that's related to the whole concept of Da'ath. Because on the spherotic tree of life, you've either got Keter illuminated or Da'ath illuminated, so that's why they're related. If you take the regular and ordinal of Ahiyah, Asher, Ahiyah, 627, and you add that to the square ordinal, 1144, you come to 1771. And that's 7 times 253, but it's also connected up to the square ordinal of Reuben and Shimon. So we know that that is a very powerful connection, isn't it? We want him to reveal that Keter. We want him to reveal the crown, okay? And we want him to reveal the outer aspect of that, if you like, which is the concept of the Moshiach, Da'ath. Like I say, on the spherotic tree, it's either Da'ath that illuminates or Keter that illuminates the crown. And they are one of the same, the inner and outer aspect of Keter. Okay? So we want in that revealed, and we want in the Da'ath to be revealed, and it's the Da'ath that has fallen. It's our knowledge of God that has fallen into the flesh because of the eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and it's this that needs to be restored back to its rightful place. Okay, it's our capacity to know, and that's the whole, like Adam knew Eve, and it's all the empathy that we've got, and it's all, like I say, it's the knowledge of Yod Heh Waw Heh. Without this fully restored, we are not able to clearly perceive Yod Heh Waw Heh. So our knowledge of Yod Heh Waw Heh is in a fallen state. We're perceiving it through our flesh as opposed to perceiving it through our skull, our Golgotha. Okay. It's supposed to be at the level of Golgotha, and it's at the level of our flesh, Basar. It's fallen. I've talked about that a lot. Right, so we've got Asher, Ahiyah, Asher, Ahiyah, and then we've got this concept. The 5 strong leaves that surround the 13 petaled rose. So if you go right to the very beginning of the Zohar, it will talk about the 13 petaled rose. And it will talk about the 5 strong leaves that surround this 13 petaled rose. The 13 petaled rose is Knesset Israel, because even though there's 12 tribes, there's really 13 if you include Levi. Okay, so when you include Ephraim and Manasseh, you then have 13 tribes. This is a 13 petaled rose that represents Knesset Yisrael. And these 5 strong leaves that surround it are connected to the cup of salvation. You know that when you're holding the Kiddush cup, you've got the 5 strong leaves, supposedly off the right hand, the hand of blessing, that surround that and hold it in the hand. 5 strong leaves. It's really 5 aspects of the name Yod Heh Waw Heh, and it's 5 aspects of the Moshiach. So it's the tip of the Yod, the body of the Yod, the Heh, the Vav, and the final Heh. And then you've got these concepts, which are the concept of the 5 aspects of Moshiach that represents the 5 aspects of the name Yod Heh Waw Heh. So you've got Moshiach Ben Yosef, Moshiach Ben David, Moshe, Yaakov, and Rahel, which represents the final letter Heh. So the tip of the Yod, the body of the Yod, Moshiach Ben David, is at the level of Chaya, the 5 levels of soul. So the Yechida is Moshiach Ben Yosef, the Chaya is Moshiach Ben David, the Neshama is Moshe, the Ruach is Yaakov, and the Nefesh is Rahel. Okay, add them all up together, you get, and this is when David and Yaakov are rectified. So David includes the additional letter Yud, and Yaakov includes the additional letter Vav. I talk about that a lot in my teachings. 1771, exactly the same as Reuben and Shimon. That Ephraim and Manasseh have got to be like. Okay, they have got to be like Reuben and Shimon, and we know that this is connected to gematria. So what can we understand from that? They've got to be like at the level of Keter. They've got to restore the crown, and they've got to be connected to the 5 concepts of Moshiach that represent the 5 aspects of the name Yod Heh Waw Heh. Because the ultimate Moshiach is the name Yod Heh Waw Heh. It's a revelation of the name Yod Heh Waw Heh. That is the ultimate, because there's only one Saviour. It's Yod Heh Waw Heh. He's the only salvation. So the Mashiach has got to represent that. he's got to represent his name. The Moshiach is the viceroy or the vice-regent of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh on earth. He's got to perfectly represent Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and they do so by the 5 aspects that are the 5 strong leaves, that are the 5 fingers of chesed that surround the cup of blessing. It's all related to the concept of Mashiach. Okay? And that is like Ahiyeh, Asher, Ahiyeh, and also like Reuben and Shimon. And you've got this powerful concept. Okay, so what stands in our way then? Well, these are the 3 tribes or 3 entities or forces that prevent us from completely and totally accessing the entire land of Israel at this time. We are in Edomite exile. And these, the Kenites, the Kenizzites and the Kadmonites are a code name for 3 forces. But as we can see, the regular is connected to this. We've got to overcome this. This is what the Moshiach overcomes, and we can see that numerically the concept of Moshiach to overcome these 3 final forces that that represent Canaanite forces that still have dominion over the land of Israel comes to 1771. Okay, this is the only force. It says the Moshiach, in the time of the Moshiach, will be able to finally rid Israel of these forces. So we've got to go see what they represent. Just to point out that filled, this comes to 3,130, which we've already seen the tree of life for 303 Eitz Chaim. If we, the regular and ordinal of Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, comes to 313. Eitz HaChaim, 313. That's the regular and ordinal of that. That number comes up all the time. Okay, so opposite this force is the tree of life. What is the tree of life? Well, it's this here. The concept of the Moshiach, the fully rectified Adam. Okay, the tree of life is a fully rectified Adam that fully reflects as a viceroy or a vice-regent the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Okay, the final Adam. And just to let you know that these are code names for forces that still have dominion over the land of Israel. So it's actually the Edom and Ammon and Moab. So it says the Kenites. There are 10 nations enumerated here, but he gave them only 7 nations. The other 3 are Edom. There was a 7 Canaanite nations, sorry. So these represent these nations. The 3 are Edom, Moab and Ammon, and they are here referred to as the Kenites, the Kenizzites and the Kadmonites, which are destined to be our heritage in the future, as it is said in Isaiah 11:14. Upon Edom and Moab shall they stretch forth their hand, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. So I'd mentioned that these was Canaanites. They're not the Canaanites. The 7 nations are the 7 Canaanite nations. Okay, so these are the Edomites, which came from Esau, the Moabites, which came from Lot's daughter, and the Ammonites, which also came from Lot's daughter. Okay, one of Lot's daughters called her son Moab, and one called them Ammon. Okay, so that's where that comes from. And it also stands for the 3 initial letters of Edom, Moab, and Ammon are the same initial letters as Ein Od Milvado. Ein Od Milvado is a revelation of Moshiach Ben Dawid, because the ordinal of Ein Od Milvado comes to 82, which is exact same ordinal as Moshiach Ben Dawid. Okay, when Dawid doesn't have the additional yud in it. So that's quite interesting as well. But as you can see, extraordinary, phenomenal, messianic connections to all this. It's all wonderful. Okay, so Let me just get the next. I just have to go back to a different view. So now we're going to have a look at these two numbers. We're going to first have a look at Reuben and Shimon, because we've been having a look at this. We need to really see why these two have got to be like these two. There's lots of hidden messages in it, Pharaohs. It's all wonderful Messianic stuff. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the 731. Anybody who's watched my videos, this number comes up all the time. It's extremely significant, as is 732. So we've got this concept. I said that we'd be going back to it. This is the concept of the peace of Pharaoh. So we're going to be looking at the 731 from Reuben and Manasseh. And Joseph replied to Pharaoh saying, "Not I, God will give an answer." So this is talking about Joseph answering the interpretation of Pharaoh's dream that will bring shalom to Pharaoh. So this goes back to the whole concept of Jonah being told to go to Nineveh, this vast metropolis that was under the kingship of the king of Nineveh, who was none other than the Pharaoh of the Exodus, according to Midrash. So we've got to ultimately bring even these chaotic forces of Pharaoh down to a place of shalom, to transform them into shalom. And obviously Joseph is very much a part of that whole process. This is what reveals the king, by the way, the king of Israel, and we'll get to that in a minute. So Shalom Pharaoh comes to 731, exactly the same as Reuben and Manasseh. It's got an ordinal of 110, which is the ordinal of Yeshua HaMoshiach, because he's the force that helps to complete that process of bringing Shalom to Pharaoh. Moshiach Ben Yosef is Yeshua. Then you've got this concept of the luminaries, Hameoroth, that's spelt in the Torah, it's spelt defective, and this is what it would look like if it was spelt rectified, which includes the additional vavs. Me'oroth, it's spelt without these two vavs, and that word me'oroth then can mean curse. Okay, so the luminaries in an accursed state, in a diminished state, both the sun and the moon, these are highly symbolic of the Moshiach, and they're also symbolic of wisdom, upper wisdom and lower wisdom. Okay, and the moon, without being connected to the sun, is going to cause problems. This is what was the whole problem with Solomon. And the sun without the moon, there's problems there as well. There's got to be unity between the sun and the moon. Okay, which is ultimately Moshiach Ben Yosef, Moshiach Ben David. And these are the two letter vavs that represent the truth. We've got to wrestle with all these forces of chaos to bring them to a place of shalom, and all these exilic powers and dominions to bring them to a place of shalom, and also get the truth out, the wisdom that is hidden in there, the light that's hidden in there, and bring it from a side or over to the side of holy. Okay, and then we've got the fully rectified luminaries. So this is just to show that in the actual Torah, the concept of the luminaries is diminished and not complete. You need to experience life. You need to experience life as well as interpreting the Torah. So you see, we look at these 2,000 years of history when we've been struggling with the Edomite exile and all the phenomena that's been presented to us in our life for all humanity. We've got to learn from that. We're going to find a lot of the truth about that. We're certainly going to find the truth regarding the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef and Moshiach Ben David, because the truth has been hidden in our life, the history we have lived, individually and collectively. We've got to unite it all together. It's not just written in the words of the Torah. We can see from this one word that the Torah in and of itself is defective. It's only when we can take the Torah and interpret the reality that we have been given that we will reveal that hidden truth that's hidden in our life experience of exile. Okay, so the luminaries comes to 658 regular, 73 ordinal, which is Chochmah, by the way, wisdom. Okay, that comes to 73 also. And add them together, they come to 731. If you take Chochmah, the regular and ordinal of Chochmah, pretty sure comes to 110. I'll just see if I can figure that one out. Yeah, so I've just included that now. Chochmah is 73, which is exactly the same as the rectified luminaries, so we know it's wisdom that we're looking for. What wisdom? Well, upper and lower wisdom for a start. And the ordinal of Chochmah is 37, which is exactly the same as Yeshua. The whole concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef in exile, Yeshua, hidden. And that is connected to Shalom of Pharaoh. And like I say, it's also Yeshua, the ordinal of Yeshua HaMoshiach. Okay. Moshe and Yeshua added together, 345, 386 comes to 731. It's utter perfection that we see, by the way, with the gematria. We see utter perfection. Melech Yisrael, so the ordinal and the regular, comes to 731. Who is the king of Israel? Well, Moshe and Yeshua united together for a start. They have to be united together in order to reveal Melech Yisrael. Moshe and Yeshua are the concept of the Moshiach, and the Moshiach is just one soul of Moshiach, incarnated first at the level of Neshama in Moshe, and at the level of Yechida in Yeshua. It will come again at the level of Chaya for Moshiach Ben David, if he hasn't already come. And I've already pointed out the whole mystery of the whole concept of Moshiach Ben David hidden in Islam. It's a phenomenon. We've got to face it because it's the reality that we've lived. The Torah alone does not reflect. If we just go by the letter, the letters of the Torah, we're going to be left with the concept of the luminaries. We're going to be left with a curse. We need to also look outside of the Torah. There's other truths that we need to unite with the book of the Torah. One, the true New Testament teachings, and the probably most likely the Quran, the teachings that are to be found in the true original Quran. Okay, they've got to be united. In there we see then the true luminaries revealed, and then we can also understand what we've suffered, what humanity is, why we've gone through this exile, why the righteous have suffered, and what has been accomplished through that. And we can go from exile to redemption, from immaturity to maturity. So 731 is good, Tov, 17, good inclination, times Esav, 43, the evil inclination. Okay, we have to be very good. The sages say this means that we've got to transform our evil inclination from evil into shalom. Esav, this is got a gematria of 376. Shalom also has a gematria of 376. We've got to take that that's evil. We've got to take that that's like Pharaoh, that he thinks it's independent of God. We are not independent completely of God. We're not independent beings. We are not. We have no independent power, shall we say? Okay. So we've got to transform the chaos, the evil inclination, and utilize that for a good purpose, like what we've got up here, Shalom Pharaoh, and that's connected to all these wonderful Messianic concepts. Okay, and this is the good fully included with the evil inclination, and this is what humanity, we are aspiring to be very good. Okay, we are aspiring to be very good in the right order, the good at the front, the bad behind. Okay, so instead of having all the bad and the chaos in front and then the good somewhere trailing behind unnoticed, you've got to get things in the right order. We set Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh before us always. We've got the reality of our life to deal with. Okay, it's not always pleasant, but it shouldn't be what's before us. The unpleasant aspect of reality shouldn't be what's before us. The name Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh should be what's before us, and we should interpret reality through that lens, not put on our exile vision and try and figure out what's going on down here. We will be overwhelmed and defeated in an instant. So we've got to push that, make that secondary, make Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh primary in our consciousness, and experience life through the lens of his name. as opposed to the slitty snake eyes crawling around in our belly, being hissed at. You know, we need to stand up and know who we actually are. But we also need to know we are formed front and back. You know, it's not just all the nice, pleasant things that's happened to us in our life that's formed us. All the rotten stuff too makes us who we are today. But we should have transformed that from chaos and evil and darkness and concealment into revelation of His name. You know, we should transform it into shalom, and our good should dominate over that. Ki tisa, when you take. So this is one of the parashas of Torah. When you take 331. So we can see that's connected all to that. There are really wonderful messianic concepts to be found in that whole parasha. As you can see, it's going to lead to a lot of revelation, a lot of important revelation. So I suggest you go read it. This is the word to meet. Likrot. This is when Yosef went out to meet his father, to meet Likrot Yisrael. Okay, he went out to meet his father Yisrael. So that word to meet is 731. And we want that union again, don't we? We want the unity between Yaakov and Tifereth, heaven and the firmament, because that union then reveals the Moshiach Ben David below. Okay, the kingdom below is established through that union that occurs above between Yosef and Yaakov, or Yosef and Moshe. Moshe was a reincarnation of Yaakov. He's at the level of Tifereth. Yeshua is at the level of Yesod, and King David is at the level of Malkuth, kingdom. This is also to be found in Genesis 15:10, possibly the first time that word to meet is it's the story of Abraham and the covenant of the parts. This will be taken from 46:28 when Yaakov goes and when Yosef goes out to meet. Okay, so then we've got this concept Paulus, which represents Apostle Paul. Because obviously there's something about Apostle Paul that a lot of people struggle with, the whole concept of Paul in the New Testament, and there's a lot of questions, and I'm not going to use this lesson to answer them because I couldn't answer them. I at a place where I've thoroughly fathomed it out. I just think that he's been used as a vessel of descent, and he will be used as the same vessel of ascent. I've done teachings on Rabbi Akiva and Apostle Paul before, and to that end, and I really do believe that. Square ordinal of Paulus comes to 731, which, as you can see, it represents a lot that's important, that needs to be accomplished. We needed to descend into the evil inclination Paulus got us in. Paulus was the concept of Moshiach, the Moshiach of Moshiach Ben Yosef, one of the vehicles to cause the descent of the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef into Edomite exile. But he's also will be part of, and to keep the two camps apart, I've talked about the theory of the two camps, where you've got the camp of Yehuda in exile going to meet Esav. You've got Israel splitting his two camps into Yehuda and Yosef. So if Esav were to strike one of the camps down, one might survive. So it would appear that Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh has also done this. He split the camp into Yehuda and the camp into Yosef to go up against the Edomite Esav exile in order to overcome the power of the evil inclination. Paul is one of the phenomenons that helps to keep the camp of Yosef separate from the camp of Yehuda during exile. Okay, lest one of them gets struck down by Esav. And then we've got this concept, Hasekel Hapoel. And there is some connection to the concept of Apostle Paul and the concept of Poel, active or action. And Hasekel Hapoel is the concept of the angel of the Lord, the concept of Metatron, and this is the term that is used by Rambam to describe Metatron. He doesn't use the term Metatron, he calls it Hasekel Apoel. There is a really brilliant concept to this. This is where we're heading, by the way, because what we tend to understand in terms of the Moshiach and this agent that we call Metatron, is that it's some agent that's out with. It's some agent, like the angel that guides, that's independent from us. Whereas Rambam didn't see it like that. He didn't see it as an intermediary. He's connected that to the concept of what's called active intellect. So this goes to, this is then connecting it to states of consciousness, isn't it? Our own Hasekel. We've got the 32 paths of wisdom, or the 32 paths of wisdom, and they're all called Hasekel. These are 32 states of consciousness that we've got to try and elevate ourselves up, and they're all called Hasekel. You know, they're all termed, they're all intellectual levels of maturity that expand our consciousness from being restricted to in a state of gadlut, expansiveness, greatness. So whilst we're in a state of immaturity, psychological immaturity, we need a guardian over us, because we're not able to act at that level where we are fully conscious of who we are, and then we are doing and being all that we are. And us, by being our true selves and reaching our full potential, we then affect the entire of creation simply by being ourselves to the truest potential possible. Us being human to the highest possible level of potential is what affects the entire of creation for good. Just being human, made in the image of Yod He Waw He, and being that full potential affects and controls the entire of creation. Our being does that. But when we can't be ourselves to our full potential, there's then an intermediary that steps it, that fills in the gap. The intermediary can be Moshiach, the intermediary can be this force called Metatron, but something's guarding us. Something stands in the gap to, organise and run creation. An agent that stands in the gap. This is one way of looking at it. However, once our own intellect is matured, then the thing that's outside us, that unmanifested potential, if you like, becomes more and more integrated. As we mature, that's not yet manifest within it becomes more. As we mature, as we expand our consciousness, that would appear to be outside, that's just our own unrealized potential, becomes more manifest, so that we take on that role of co-creators, or the concept of the prince of the world. We are then, through our being ourselves, made in the image of Yod He Waw He, running the entire of creation. We being human create that abundance. We being our true potential, we being fully manifest within creation, all that Yod He Waw He desires to manifest, and all that He desires to bestow and reveal to us, all that good. It's to do with growing up and maturing spiritually. So that's another way of looking at this whole concept of the angel of the Lord and the guardian. It's really an aspect of our own soul that's still not yet manifest. It's still out with. It's the aspect of our own soul that didn't fall in Adam. But we've got to somehow integrate that and build ourselves up from our fallen diminished state in exile and our restricted consciousness, we've got to grow and grow and mature till this that is outside running the show becomes manifest within, and it's all connected with our own intellect. We've got to mature intellectually to recognize who we are and the power of being who we are, to help manifest everything in creation that needs to be, all the good that we desire to see in creation, all the shalom, the no more wars, feeding the hungry, and no more suffering. We've got to raise ourselves up to our true potential, and that in itself will bring an end to this intermediary. Okay? And we will take on the road of running the show. Human beings at their fullest, greatest potential are able to solve all the problems of humanity that humanity faces, and to alleviate all this suffering, to alleviate all this hunger, and to build heaven on earth. We have got that potential. We're just not fully conscious of it yet. Okay, and we need to reach that level of maturity where we are fully conscious. We're in exile at this time. We've got to be redeemed. We've got to redeem our own soul, our own potential, make it manifest, and then from that place of expanded consciousness and expanded awareness and manifestation of potential, we will run the show. We've got control over the creation. We are able to, through being ourselves, determine that the poor get fed. We can see this in a microcosmic version, even in exile. People who are more aware of themselves, or more aware of the power of Moshiach within, like those who fully allow the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef to dwell within, they're the ones making a change in the world. It's as simple as that. The ones doing the things that make a difference, the change, and they have caused great changes for good in this world. You look around and trace the origins of a lot of the positive things that have happened in the world. You'll trace it back to somebody who believed they was anointed to do something, or they felt empowered and inspired through their belief, be it Jews or Christians or Muslims. So it's a phenomenon. I need to think about it more, but this is a wonderful concept, and the Rambam gave us a very big hint when he gave us that word, asekel, apoel, active intelligence. We've got to really allow that's out with to manifest within. Death swallowed up, thank goodness. It will come eventually. That's got 731. This is the soul of Moshiach that will accomplish this, though. And like I say, that's part of our own potential. We've got to allow it to happen. Sarach, so another aspect of the Mashiach, the name of Mashiach. Very important person, comes up here all the time. 508 regular, 49 ordinal, 905 squared ordinal. Add them together, come to 1462. 2 times 731. Metatron. So this is quite interesting, really, because you've got the first initials, Metar, which is really means guide. It comes from the etymology of it. It comes from a word from Onkelos, when it says to guide you on the way. The angel of the Lord that will be sent to guide you along the way. The word in Aramaic is lematarcha, to guide you. Okay, so Metatron is the guide whilst we're still in states of exiled consciousness, restricted consciousness. So if you take the letters Metar, it comes to square ordinal is 731. The square ordinal of the other two letters come to, would that be right? Just wait a minute. Yeah, this is the square ordinal of of the Mispagdol square ordinal, where the nun is the 25th letter in the alphabet. Okay, so that comes to 661, which is Esther hidden. Okay. There's a lot to meditate in that, actually, and this can sometimes, these two letters can be used together for things that are connected to assimilation. You know, sometimes we can assimilate into the exile, and it's a very powerful force that we've got to overcome, the power of assimilation, because you've got the concept of Yavon, which is Greece. We're not just in a Roman exile, an Edomite exile, we're actually in a Greco-Roman exile. So all this academia and things like this can really affect the society for good, but also for bad, because it wants you to assimilate. We have to become Hebrews. This is the redemptive states of consciousness. When we've got a Hebrew mind, it's very difficult to attain a Hebrew level of thinking when we're subject to Greco-Roman influences to the degree that we are. You know, Greco-Roman, all this academia and all this Western influence can sometimes prevent us reaching those levels of intellect and those levels of consciousness that are required for really understanding who we are. We've got to understand we're Hebrew. Okay, for a start off, we had that connection, didn't we, to the Hebrew youth. So we've got to, first of all, we've got to be Hebrew, even if we're in a state of immaturity. And we've got to grow from that root, not a Greco-Roman root. You've got to be very careful. And this Metatron, if you like, the on bit, is very much associated with that power of assimilation. Okay, so we've got to overcome the forces of assimilation in order to reach and manifest our full potential. And it's very difficult because we assimilate to exile. We become the product of exile. So we become anxious and depressed and sad because exile is informing of us of who we are. And we are responding to that. We're caught up in a feedback loop. So we are constantly being fed the garbage from the exile. We are exiled in this reality. And this is informing our intellect of who we are and preventing us from reaching our potential. We are locked into this exilic mindset. We've got to be liberated from it. We've got to remember first, even in a state of immaturity, before we fully matured, we're Hebrew. And from this Hebraic perspective, and to be a Hebrew means you're a seeker of the truth. That's what defines a Hebrew, or somebody who's got that within them where they want to break away from the culture that they've inherited or the religion that they've inherited. They're going to challenge it. They want to reveal the truth. Sometimes that's the middle path of truth, by the way, but again, these are big concepts that are very difficult for me to talk about. But you know, this is obviously connected to the whole concept of Esther. Esther was a Hebrew, but she never forgot who she was, although she was exiled and hidden in a very difficult and challenging situation. It was by the will of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and even though he hid his whole name in the book of Esther, it's very much is revealed through the divine providence. This goes back to what I said earlier about it's not just the words of Torah, but we've got to be able to interpret the reality correctly, not through an exilic mindset, but through the eyes of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, through a Hebraic mindset. Okay, these are all things that are going to help mature us, so to get us from a state where we need a guardian that's out with, to that being manifest within. That's what we're really truly aiming for. Okay, then we've got this, Adbo Yosef, but Tzaharayim, until Yosef would come at lunchtime. So this is the whole build-up of Yosef meeting his brothers, okay, being reunited with his brothers. Comes to 508, 645, together they come to 731. So related to all this, and also the concept of Reuben and Shimon, the Mispagdol is 1,866, which is 2 times 933. Do you believe 933 is the square ordinal of Metatron? I'll just check. Yeah, it's related to Metatronic levels of consciousness, where we're still at the level of Na'ar, the lad. We haven't fully matured. Can't go into too much detail, but it's also the gematria, one of the gematrias of Shechem Echad, the one portion given over to Yosef, and also once we're all given the same language, we will speak with one accord, Shechem Echad. It's exactly the same letters. I've talked about that a lot. It's exactly the same letters as the portion of Shechem that's given additionally to Yosef. Okay, comes to 933, but it's also reflective of immature states of consciousness. Right. He reveals the profound and secret things. He knows what is in the dark, and light dwells in him. So that's Daniel 2:22. The regular and the ordinal added together come to 5 times 731. So this is us wrestling with the darkness, to reveal those secret things and to reveal the wisdom that is hidden there. Okay. And then this also, this is where we get this word to meet. And Joseph harnessed his chariot and he went up to meet Yisrael, his father, to Goshen. And he appeared to him and he fell on his neck and he wept on his neck for a long time. Okay, that comes to, I think, a regular of 4,200, which is 20 times 168. And 168 is David rectified, the square ordinal of David rectified with the additional yod. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at Ephraim and Manasseh. Let's just quickly go back. Okay, so we've got this Ephraim and Manasseh, 732. Truth will sprout from the earth and righteousness will look down from heaven. It comes to Mispagdol ordinal of 366, 2 times which is 732. So there is a connection there. Why, O Lord, do you abandon my soul? Do you hide your countenance from me? So you've got that tastir that's related to Esther. It's God hides. He's an invisible God. Okay? We are not able to see him. But he makes himself known to us through that can be seen. Okay? So we've got to be able to perceive him. And that can be seen, it would appear, is in balance, half good, half bad, in this reality in which we live. But we've got to try and see the perfection in that balance and reveal the one that's hidden and unseen through it. It's like in the Holy of Holies, you've got the 2 cherubim. You've got the cherubim of the right, which is the chesed, the kindness, and the cherubim, the cherub, on the left, which is like harsh punishments and suffering and things like this, din, judgment. But between those two is the mercy seat. But you can't see that hidden. You can't see Yotewawi because it's hidden. What we see is we see something that's visible to us. We've got to be careful that we don't worship what's visible, because Yotewawi is invisible. Okay, it can be perceived through that's visible, but he is not that's visible. We've got to just be careful that we don't worship what is essentially his, which is essentially just the way that he makes himself known to us, but it is not him himself. Okay. Why, O Lord, do you abandon my soul? Do you hide your countenance from me? If we take the ordinal, the regular ordinal, and the mispagadol ordinal of this entire verse, taken from Psalms 88 and add them together, come to 732, exactly the same as Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay. And we've got to understand there's a lot of mystery involved in that. Because Yotewawi does hide his face. He does hide his face, but he does desire to be known to us to the highest degree possible. The highest degree possible that he could make himself known to us is through the concept of Sahapanim. the Prince of the Faces, which is Yeshua, the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. I believe that's the highest level of revelation of that we can't see being made perceivable and knowable to us. We've got to understand even that itself is not Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, but a representation of him. Okay, and we're talking even at the level of Yeshua. He's a representation of his name. That's why he says, you won't see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Not blessed is he who is Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, but who comes in his name. He is his representation in the world, the visible world. Okay. And truth. So, and truth comes to a square ordinal of 690, an ordinal of 42. This is one of the attributes of mercy. Comes to 732. This is Saraka spelled in the Zohar, the woman Sarachbat Asher. She is sometimes spelled with a samach instead of a shin in the Zohar. So the gematria for that, regular, ordinal, added together come to 311, which is Ish, man, I think, yes, is man. 43 is Esav, the ordinal of Esav. Square ordinal is 689. Add those, the square ordinal to the ordinal, we get 732, which is connected to all these concepts. Ephraim and Menashe. She was the one that found the bones of Yosef with Moshe. In 601, so this is very important, Achat Weshesh Me'ot, 601. So in the 601st year, Noah released, the ark landed, Noah released the dove. It's connected to the concept of truth. Sheker comes to 600. To reveal the truth in the lie, you've got to get to the 601st gematria. It's also connected to a phenomena that Baal Shem Tov spoke about. And I've done a teaching on this, and if you typed in 601, because that's part of the title, I'm pretty sure it would bring it up. And it's all about the concept of what Baal Shem Tov, he gave us this incredible commentary. I'm not going to go through it in this lesson because I've gone over it multiple times before, that points to 601 being a tipping point in terms of gematria to reveal the truth that is hidden in a lie. We need to be able to have that power now. And there's one for the ordinal and one for the gematria, the regular gematria. The regular gematria I think is 736, but the ordinal gematria is 601. So we can see that this is actually written in the Torah, and it's the day that the dove was released, the Yonah was released. It's all Messianic symbolism and codes. So this in 601 is very significant. It's talking about in the 601st year of Noah's life. So it comes to 1,464. Presume that's a regular, which is 2 times 732. Okay. Tree of knowledge. Okay, so Eitz had the Ath and the tree of knowledge. So this is how it's written in the Torah. 645 plus 87 ordinal comes to 732. Perfection of the world. We're in the process of Tikkun Olam, rectifying the world, transforming the chaos into Shalom, the darkness into light, the evil into good. 732 is our work to do this. 120 is also the same gematria up here. So we've got exactly the same perfection of the world and Ephraim and Manasseh. So we've got to accomplish this by connecting to these concepts of Ephraim and Manasseh, you know. And we've got the concept of, there's two concepts of Moshiach also that's connected to Moshiach Ben Yosef. There's Moshiach Ben Ephraim, and there's a concept of Moshiach Ben Manasseh, and obviously the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. They're all very powerful appellations, if you like, for the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, this phenomena that's with us in exile, helping us to perfect ourselves, to perfect the world. The world will be perfected when we've perfected ourselves. And this is connected to 120, which is the power of Eliyahu Hanavi, the Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, comes to 120. Okay? And also the ordinal of Shekah is 60. The ordinal of Amalek is 60. These are the two powerful forces we've got to overcome with the power of the truth. And where do we get the truth from? We've got to attach to Eliyahu Hanavi, who gives the truth to Yaakov, who gives the truth to our soul, to overcome the lies that we're confronted with that lead us to assimilation and confusion. We've got to overcome the doubts that cool us off from doing that we should do to perfect the world, to perfect ourselves, to reach our full potential. Very powerful forces, and if you're not doing some work to overcome them, they will become overcoming you. It's just an absolute fact. There's no room for people who cannot do the work that is before us to do. We've got to do the hard work. It's not easy confronting doubts. It's not easy battling with lies and darkness. It's not easy to create space so that our true potential can manifest in our actual lives. It takes a lot of effort. Elohim. So we've got Elohim here, God, 86, plus the Mispar Gadol of Elohim, add them together, 732. Yosef said, didn't it, am I instead of God? And in some ways, we have got to wrestle with this. This is the side of, this is the Gevurah, isn't it? This is the judgment. This is the din. This is the name of a God that's associated with the left-hand side of divinity, and we've got to wrestle through that during exile in order to get the wisdom out. What wisdom? Well, the wisdom that's hidden there to give us the truth about the whole concept of the Moshiach, because it's the Torah, the word for luminaries in the Torah is spelled defective. In fact, it's spelled, and it's a curse. So how can we transform that into a blessing? We've got to wrestle with these forces. We've got to go wrestle with this darkness in order to draw out the wisdom hidden there. Okay, 127 is one of the fillings out, by the way, of Yeshua. The ordinal filling out of Yeshua when the Vav is filled with a Yud. And 93 is the Mispar Gadol of Moshiach Ben David when David is spelled Daleth Vav Daleth. Okay. When it's a Mispar Gadol, that means the nun would be the 26th letter of the alphabet instead of the 14th. No, I don't think I've got that right. No, the 25th letter instead of the 14th. Okay, so that's connected to Moshiach Ben David. That's connected to Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay. Got to fight those forces of darkness to reveal those two Vavs. One, the Vav that is the truth regarding Moshiach Ben Yosef. One, the Vav that is the truth regarding Moshiach Ben David, because they are the luminaries. Moshiach Ben Yosef is the sun. Moshiach Ben David is the moon. Okay, so we can see these two added together. 732 is connected to that. In fact, the defective luminaries, the rectified it comes to 658. The defective luminaries, as it's spelt, Hamarot, in the Torah, comes to 646. So we've got to wrestle with these forces of judgment and darkness to get that truth that's hidden out there. Also, 52 is the ordinal of Moshiach, and 42:1 is the ordinal of Kiseh David, the throne of David. So there's loads of messianic stuff in there, that's what I'm saying. But that 646, I've just recognised the number there. That is how it's spelt in the Torah. Hamarot, with the missing vavs, comes to 646. Rectified, it comes to 658 regularly. You can go back and check. So they two together, 732. It is Saharat, it is leprosy. So 772 is 2 times 386, 2 times Yeshua. It's got a square ordinal of 1464, which is 2 times 732. So this is highly messianic also. Talked about that a lot. Sefer Yotewahwe, the book of Yotewahwe, comes to 366. this is part of a very important verse to be found in Isaiah. I've gone over this many times before, but 366 times 2 is 732. Okay, Lavan. So Lavan, hidden in the darkness of Lavan's household was Rachel and Leah, the two matriarchs of the tribes of Israel, or two of the matriarchs of the tribes of Israel. So 732 there. Butter and honey. So this is this is a messianic term, and this butter and honey, it says butter and honey he will eat when he can reject evil and choose good. This is a very highly messianic concept to be able to attain. The immature aspect of that is to be found, I can't remember which verse now, but around Isaiah 7:15. It could even be Isaiah 7:16, is that when the lad, the Na'ar, does not know how to reject evil and choose good. So a state of immaturity is where we can't fully, where we don't fully discern what's evil and what's good. And what is missing from those two words that's not missing from Isaiah? I'll just bring it up and show you. So here we've got cream and honey he shall eat when he knows to reject bad and choose good. And we talked about those two vavs and the luminaries. So as we can see, we've got leda'ato, when his knowledge, his da'ah, knows ma'os, to reject bara, evil, uvahor, and choose batov. And as you can see, in the ma'os there's a vav, and in the uvahor there's a vav. Go down to this verse, which is Metatronic, because it's talking about the lad. For when the lad, ki beterem yada ha na'ar ma'os. Oh, just wait a minute, have I got this right? Okay, so this is actually unbelievable, because a few times I've done teachings on this, right? I've had to just double check this. This has been changed, because I pointed out this here, and I've previously copied off this website that this vav is missing, and this vav is missing in the Hebrew manuscript, right? So somehow Chabad.org have changed this to now include a vav in the verse 16. It didn't always, and evidence of that is, if I go back to my so these are what I've previously pulled off before they've made the change, and you can see quite clearly Isaiah 7:16 says, for when the lad does not yet know to reject bad and choose good, that there's a missing vav. You've got ma'os and ma'os with no vav. You've got bara, uvahor, uvachor, and this one has got no vav. So that's where we get the missing vavs from. When we get to state of maturity and we're able to eat cream and honey, because this is a difference between messianic. This is a messianic prophecy, and I know all about it because for the last 2 years or 3 years I've been eating my challah bread with date honey and butter, with the hope of fulfilling even in my own life to a small extent some of this mystery, because I saw it a long time ago. Now Chabad.org, I don't know whether somebody's seen my teachings and pointed it out, but now they've changed it to include, you've just seen that there is a vav in it, and there is I've just picked up my interlinear. I can't show you, but clearly there is no vav, and there is no in verse 16. And Chabad.org have definitely changed it, because I got this off Chabad.org. And I'm looking now at it in this book. I can't show you it because it's too small possibly. But it says here, and I'm reading it, but when before B'terem Yada he knows Hana'ar, the boy, Ma'os, to reject no vav. I can't show you that, unfortunately. So in the manuscript there is no vav. So Chabad.org have changed that, and I've done a couple of teachings to point out that in a state of Messianic consciousness, the lad is not able to perceive the truth. So doesn't yet know, yada. He hasn't yet got his Messianic consciousness restored sufficiently enough to reject what is bad and choose what is good. Okay? So people are choosing bad and rejecting good. That's what Metatronic consciousness does, because Metatron is called Hana'ar, the lad. We've got to be a Hebrew lad and mature from that root to full maturity, when we know to eat cream and honey. Like I say, I do it every week with a challah. I've got a special dish. I put it on the table, Shabbat table, and when I cook my challah, put the salt on, I put the butter on, and I put the devash, the honey that is date syrup really, and I eat it with this, with this intention to bring me to a place where that can hopefully help to reveal the truth. And I would recommend you all do that. It is so beautiful. The flavour of true date honey is such a beautiful and proper butter. It's really, really a wonderful, wonderful blessing. It's helped to connect me to Yeshua and things like that. So I've just found this out. I'm quite shocked at what Chabad.org has done, because there's a truth in this. There's a truth that's now trying to get hid. What are they trying to say? That Metatronic consciousness, exilic consciousness, is going to be able to reveal the truth to us? It's not. It's a lie. It's never intended to. We've got to reject even that level of consciousness. We've got to reject everything that we know to this day to reveal within ourselves what we don't yet know. Sometimes we've got to let go of everything we think we know in order to acquire that we don't yet know. Okay? Anyway, that's a mystery. And I wonder why. I've only just found it. Like I say, I weren't going to go into it, but it was so interesting. And even more interesting, the fact that they've messed with their own, they've literally, somebody's had to go in and change it, because I got that from Chabad.org a few years ago, and now as you can see it's different. Let me just go back and just clarify that is what we've seen. Yeah, very clearly they've added that vav there, and they've added that vav there, and that vav does not exist in the manuscript. It does not exist in that. I've just checked it myself. So, and I know previously it wasn't there. It wasn't there, and it's sad really that somebody's gone on and done that. It's sad, because that is not what's written in the Hebrew. So there we go. We've revealed the mystery. I weren't expecting that. So there you go. I'm glad I did a little bit of a dive down into that, because I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have done. And I definitely know. I get all my verses off Chabad.org. I never use any other website. The only things is if it's a New Testament, obviously. So I know for a fact I got that from there. And then this one, and this is the outstretched hand over the nations, Isaiah 14:26, 732. Okay, to gather them in. And then this is the concept of the curtain. This is a whole other lesson. It's a whole other. There's so much hidden in this concept. So the curtain, Hai-Ri-Ah, comes to 366, which is 366, so which you can see is connected to that. And then this is the mysterious aspect to this curtain. May it be your will that the Tekiah, Shavarim, Trua, Tekiah, these are the blasts of the shofar that are blasted during Rosh Hashanah, blasts that we have made be embroidered in the heavenly curtain by the appointed angel Tatiel and the ministering angel, the Metatron, of the inner chamber. So I took that from the 13 petals, but it's actually taken from part of the Rosh Hashanah prayers. Okay, so it's just to let you know what this heavenly curtain is about. And in and amongst that prayer, in amongst the Rosh Hashanah prayer, we get the whole concept revealed to us as who truly is the Sahapanim, this ultimate visible, perceivable aspect to creation that can help, or that represents the unseen, invisible God, or to us, which is Yeshua HaMoshiach, Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I got another wonderful slide, but because of this whole thing with the butter and honey, I never really got round to doing that. I think, no, I'll have to leave it for another lesson, because there are some other gematria that I would like to go through, but that's enough for us to think about. There's a lot of concepts in there. There's a lot of wisdom you need to really process and explore. It's all wonderful stuff. It's all part of the perfection. Another way that we can see the perfection is in the Torah. We can see and perceive the invisible through the perfection of perceiving through perceiving how perfect the Torah is. Okay, and with that I will say shalom. I may be doing another lesson. That's possibly what will come as a result of this, but please subscribe and share anyway. And shalom.